There's a version of retirement that most people never get to live. Not the one where you're still checking your phone every morning because the money math doesn't quite add up. Not the one where you stay in the same city you've always lived in because moving feels too risky, too unknown, too late. Not the retirement where you tell yourself, someday I'll live near the water, and someday never quite arrives. I'm talking about the version where you wake up to the sound of the ocean, where your grocery run doubles as a morning walk along the esplanade, where your neighbours know your name and nobody's in a particular hurry about anything, where your total monthly outgoings, rent, food, power, a coffee here, a meal out there, comes in somewhere around the price of what some people spend on parking in Sydney. That version of retirement exists in Australia, right now, in places that most people have never heard of, in corners of this country that the big tourism campaigns don't bother with, because they're not trying to impress anybody. They're just quietly, unhurriedly beautiful. Today, I'm taking you to 7 of them. 7 hidden beach towns scattered across this country, where a single person, living simply and well, can genuinely get by on under $1,000 Australian dollars a month. Not by scraping, not by cutting everything that makes life worth living, but by choosing a place where a simpler life costs less and gives more. I'm going to walk you through each town like I've actually been there. The streets, the beaches, the weekly shop, the local pub, the sunrise, the people. And by the end of this video, at least one of these places is going to plant itself in your head and not leave. Let's start. The first town almost nobody outside of Western Australia has heard of is called Brema Bay. It sits on the south coast of Western Australia, about 5.5 hours east of Perth by car, facing the Great Australian Bight in a part of the country where the land just runs out and the ocean takes over. The Southern Ocean. Not the gentle turquoise postcard kind of ocean, the serious kind. Steel blue and vast in a way that makes you understand, in your body rather than just your head, how enormous this planet actually is. Brema Bay has a permanent population of somewhere around 300 people. 300. The kind of number where you genuinely do know everyone, at least by face, within a few months of arriving. There are no traffic lights. There is no shopping centre. There is a pub, a bakery, a general store, a caravan park, and about 200 kilometres of some of the most untouched coastline anywhere in the Southern Hemisphere. Every year between July and October, something extraordinary happens in the waters just offshore. The largest congregation of orca in Australian waters gathers here, in Brema Canyon, a deep submarine trench that sits a few kilometres out from the coast. Scientists are still working out exactly why. Something about the upwelling, the cold nutrient-rich water rising from depth, the prey it brings with it. What they know is that it works. The orca return every year, along with sperm whales, pilot whales, bluefin tuna, and great white sharks, all converging in a canyon so deep it would swallow skyscrapers. You can take a boat out to watch it. A lot of retirees here have made that trip a regular event, not a once-in-a-lifetime splurge. Now, the numbers. A basic 2-bedroom house in Brema Bay rents for somewhere between $900 and $1,200 per month, but many of the longer-term rental properties in regional coastal WA, particularly in the off-season, come in below that. Some sit lower. The town also has caravan park accommodation and park homes that rent month to month at significantly lower rates, some under $500 per month for a well-situated permanent site. If you own your home, your monthly overheads shrink dramatically. Groceries come from the general store in town for essentials or from the larger supermarkets in Albany, a regional city with a full Woolworths and Coles, about 1.8 hours to the west. Many Brema Bay residents make that run once a month, stock the freezer and pantry, and live off it. The general store handles the gaps. Your grocery bill here, if you're cooking at home and shopping deliberately, sits around $250 to $350 per month for a single person. Utilities, power, and water run around $120 to $150 per month averaged across the year. Heating in winter is the main cost driver. The winters here are mild by most standards, temperatures in the low to mid-teens. But the wind off the Southern Ocean is consistent, and a well-insulated house with a wood fire or reverse cycle heating costs real money to keep comfortable. Budget for that. Internet, NBN or satellite broadband in a town this size can be patchy. Starlink has changed the game significantly for remote coastal WA. Budget $100 to $120 per month, and your connection will be adequate for everything except high-volume streaming. Add it up. A person living in a mid-range rental in Brema Bay, shopping smartly, cooking at home, not going without, but not being extravagant, lands around 800 to 950 Australian dollars per month, all in. For that, you get the Orca, the clear water beach at Fishery Beach that turns a particular shade of aquamarine in summer that photographers travel thousands of kilometres to capture, the near-total silence at night, and a community of people who almost universally came here on purpose, who looked at the map, drove the 5.5 hours, and decided that what was at the end of that drive was worth staying for. I want to pause here and ask you something, and I want you to genuinely sit with it for a second. What is retirement actually for? I don't mean the financial definition. I mean, what are you hoping to feel? What does a good Tuesday look like? A good July morning? When you picture yourself retired, what's around you? I'm asking because most of the content about retirement, the financial planning content, the superannuation content, the how much do I need calculators, talks entirely about money. And money matters. Of course it does. But the towns in this video are filled with people who stopped asking, how much do I need? And started asking, how much is actually enough? And for a surprising number of them, the answer was much less than they expected. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, if you've been turning this question over for a while, and you're looking for a channel that takes it seriously, this is the content we make, every week. Not investment advice, not superannuation explainers, just honest, on-the-ground storytelling about the places, the people, and the choices behind a different kind of retirement. Subscribe if you want to come along. I put that button down there so it's easy to find. Now, back on the road. The second town is in South Australia, and it might be the most underestimated piece of coastline in this entire country. Streaky Bay sits on the Eyre Peninsula, which is that long finger of land that juts southward from the bottom of South Australia between the Spencer Gulf and the Great Australian Bight. The Eyre Peninsula is known primarily to people who eat seafood because it produces some of the finest oysters, tuna, prawns, and abalone in the world. The waters here are cold and clean, and what comes out of them is extraordinary. Streaky Bay itself is a town of about 1,100 people. It has a supermarket, a small one, but a real one, a hospital, a school, a swimming pool, a bakery that makes pies with local tuna in them that are worth the drive on their own, a pub, a general store, a fuel station, a caravan park that is consistently rated among the best positioned in South Australia, sitting right on the bay. The bay itself is sheltered from the swell that hammers the exposed Bight coastline, which makes it calm enough to swim most of the year. The water is that particular colour that happens when clean southern water sits over white sand in strong light, somewhere between teal and glass. On the right morning, it looks painted. Just north of town, outside the bay's shelter, the coast gets serious. Murphy's Haystacks, ancient inselbergs of pink granite worn into shapes that look like they were placed there by something with a very strange sense of humour. Point Labatt, the only mainland breeding colony of Australian sea lions in the country. You can stand on the cliff above the sea lions and watch them entirely unmolested. No tour company required, no ticket, just you and a few thousand years of wild coast. The rental market in Streaky Bay is, by any Australian coastal standard, remarkable. A 3-bedroom house on a quiet street costs somewhere between $800 and $1,100 per month in rent. A smaller property or a unit can come in below $700. A park home on the caravan park in a permanent site runs around $400 to $500 per month. Real estate sale prices are low enough that a modest super balance or retirement savings package can buy a property outright and eliminate rent entirely. Groceries. The supermarket is small, and some things cost more than they would in a larger centre. Budget $300 to $380 per month for a single person who cooks at home, allows a meal out once a week, and doesn't eat like a monk. If you fish, and many Streaky Bay residents do, because the fishing here is genuinely excellent, that number drops further. A flathead, a snapper, a whiting from the bay, brought home and put in the pan with some butter and lemon costs approximately nothing. Utilities average around $130 to $160 per month. The Eyre Peninsula has long, warm summers and mild winters. Air conditioning in January is the main cost. In winter, minimal heating is required, the kind of winters where a jumper and a cup of tea handle most evenings. Total monthly living costs, conservatively, $900 to $1,050 for a renter. For an owner, often less than $600. What Streaky Bay offers that money cannot buy is space. Real space. The kind where you look in any direction and the human-made world eventually stops and the natural world takes over completely, without any apology about it. After a few weeks, that stops feeling like emptiness and starts feeling like the correct amount of room. The third town is in Queensland, and I need to be careful with this one because it has a secret. A secret that I'm going to tell you in approximately 90 seconds, and which changes the entire calculus. The town is Cardwell. It sits on the Bruce Highway in far north Queensland, about halfway between Townsville and Cairns, in a narrow corridor between the Coral Sea and the Cardwell Range. That range is covered in rainforest, dense, unbroken, national park, protected. On the other side of the highway, the sea. In between, a small town of about 1,200 people that most Queenslanders drive through without stopping. Here is the thing about Cardwell that changes everything. The Great Barrier Reef begins offshore here. Not the reef as an abstraction, the actual physical reef. Coral, fish, the complete ecosystem begins in the waters you can see from the town's main esplanade. The whole channel that separates the coast from Hinchinbrook Island, one of the largest national park islands in Australia, is widely considered one of the finest kayaking destinations on the continent. People travel from Europe and North America specifically to paddle the Hinchinbrook Channel. Cardwell residents have that on their doorstep, on any given morning. The town also sits within easy reach of the Cardwell Spa Pools, a natural rock pool system in the nearby rainforest fed by a cold, clear creek, where you can swim under a rainforest canopy that has been here essentially unchanged since before humans arrived in Australia. It is not a tourist attraction, exactly. It is just a place the locals go swimming. The numbers. Cardwell sits at the bottom end of the Queensland rental market for coastal towns. A 2-bedroom house rents for between $700 and $900 per month. Units and smaller properties come in around $550 to $750. A caravan park site in the town's well-positioned park, right on the foreshore on the Coral Sea, runs somewhere around $350 to $500 for a permanent resident monthly arrangement. Groceries. There is a supermarket in town. A larger IGA that covers the essentials. Bigger shops happen in Tully, 20 minutes south, or in Ingham, 40 minutes south. A single person cooking at home in Cardwell spends around $280 to $360 per month on food. Tropical fruit grown locally, mangoes, pawpaw, bananas, is very cheap here. A mango in season in Cardwell costs the kind of money that would embarrass a Sydney greengrocer. Utilities average around $100 to $140 per month. The main cost is air conditioning in the wet season, December through March, when the humidity and heat mean you will run it for portions of each day. The rest of the year, the climate is a gift. The dry season, May through October, delivers day after day of warm blue weather with a sea breeze that makes the evenings genuinely perfect. Total, for a renter, $850 to $950 per month. With a bit of fishing, a bit of foraging for the fruit that grows in profusion in this part of the world, lower. The warning I will give you. Cardwell sits in cyclone country. The town was directly hit by Cyclone Yasi in 2011, one of the most powerful cyclones to make landfall in Australian history, and the damage was severe. It has since been rebuilt, but the vulnerability is real. Cyclone insurance is mandatory if you own a property here, and it raises your cost of ownership. Renters need contents insurance. If you are someone for whom this risk is deal-breaking, note it and move on. For people who make peace with it, and thousands of long-term Cardwell residents have, the trade-off for everything else the town offers is more than acceptable. The fourth town is somewhere that most of you, I suspect, have been advised to put on your retirement list already, but I want to show you a side of it that the standard retirement guides miss. Victor Harbour, South Australia, Fleurieu Peninsula, an hour south of Adelaide, on a road that passes through vineyards, horse country, and the kind of small-town main streets that still have hardware stores and bakeries and butchers operating side by side. Victor Harbour has a population of about 15,000, the largest place on this list, and it has been named one of the best places to retire in Australia multiple times by multiple publications. So I'll acknowledge that it's not exactly hidden, but it has a hidden side, and that's what I want to spend time on here. The Fleurieu Peninsula's best kept secret is not Victor Harbour itself. It is the string of smaller towns within a 20 to 40 minute drive of Victor Harbor that offer almost all of the same amenities, access, and lifestyle, with rent prices 30 to 40% lower and a fraction of the tourist traffic. Goolwa, Port Elliot, Middleton, Encounter Bay, Hindmarsh Island. These are towns where people live, not towns that exist to service tourists, although tourists visit towns with real supermarkets, real local pubs, real community halls and footy clubs and CWA meetings. Towns where the median house sale price is still comfortably under $500,000, which means a reasonable deposit or modest super balance can end the rent conversation entirely. Goolwa in particular deserves your attention. It sits at the mouth of the Murray River, where the longest river system in Australia finally meets the sea in a broad, wind-raked estuary that is one of the most important wetland ecosystems in the country. The town has a full supermarket, a medical centre, a wonderful little restaurant strip along the main street, and a foreshore where pelicans sit on the jetty bollards with the untroubled confidence of animals that know exactly who this town belongs to. Rent in Goolwa, a 2-bedroom house, runs about $1,100 per month currently, towards the upper edge of our target range, but smaller properties and units come in below that, and the buy-in price is still low enough that many retirees here are mortgage-free. For Victor Harbor proper, a renter's monthly budget looks like this. Rent around $1,200 to $1,400 for a comfortable 2-bedroom. Utilities around $150, groceries around $320. Phone and internet about $80. That lands at $1,750 to $1,950 per month, above our $1,000 target for a renter, but within range for someone who owns their home or who is renting a smaller unit rather than a house. I include Victor Harbor because of the combination of infrastructure and proximity to nature that it offers, and because many of the people who've done this move report that their actual monthly expenditure, once settled, sits lower than they expected. Eating out of the local garden, fishing off the jetty, the social life that emerges naturally in tight-knit communities that don't need entertainment imported from elsewhere. And because the healthcare here for older retirees matters. Victor Harbor has a hospital. It is 70 minutes from Adelaide's world-class hospital system. For people who need regular specialist appointments, that proximity has a real dollar value. I want to do something a little different before we get to the last 3 towns. I want to tell you about a conversation I keep having, not with financial advisors, not with real estate agents, with retirees who've already made the move. People in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who packed everything into a moving truck and drove to somewhere on this list, or somewhere like it, and are now living a life they describe almost universally in the same language. Slower, quieter, cheaper than expected, richer than expected. The 5th town is in Tasmania, and Tasmania, as a retirement destination, is so consistently underrated that I sometimes wonder if the people who live there are actively discouraging others from finding out about it, which, honestly, is a completely reasonable strategy. The town is St. Helens. It sits on Tasmania's east coast in the curl of George Bay, among the most beautiful on the planet. The Bay of Fires, which begins about 20 kilometers north of St. Helens, has been described by Lonely Planet as one of the 10 most beautiful beaches in the world. Bright white silica sand, water that grades from clear to turquoise to deep blue depending on the depth. Lichen-covered orange boulders at the headlands. A quality of light in the early morning and late afternoon that doesn't look photographic. It looks like someone forgot to stop painting. St. Helens is the largest town on Tasmania's east coast. Population around 2,500. It has a supermarket, a hospital, a swimming pool, a high school, multiple medical clinics, an airport with services to Launceston, though most people make the 90-minute drive to Launceston Airport for connections to the mainland. A fishing fleet that operates out of George Bay and lands some of the finest crayfish, flathead, and scallops in the country. The climate on Tasmania's east coast is legitimately special. While the rest of Tasmania, Hobart, the west, the mountains, gets its rainfall, the east coast sits in a rain shadow and receives around 200 days of sunshine a year. Summers are warm and dry, routinely in the mid to high 20s. Winters are cool, daily highs in the low to mid-teens, but genuinely mild by Tasmanian standards, and the winters are short. Rent in St. Helens, a 2-bedroom house, runs approximately $900 to $1,200 per month. Smaller properties and units come in below $900. Some long-term rentals and rural residential properties on the outskirts of town are available for less. Tasmania's rental market has tightened in recent years following an influx of mainland migration, but St Helens, being more remote than Hobart or Launceston, has absorbed this less dramatically than those centres. Groceries. There is a Foodworks and an IGA in town. A single person cooking at home and buying weekly spends around $270 to $350 per month. Fresh seafood here is not an indulgence. It's practically a baseline food group. Crayfish at the local co-op, crayfish that left the water this morning, is priced in ways that will make someone who has bought it at a Sydney fish market want to sit down. Utilities in Tasmania are worth understanding. Power is heavily hydro-sourced here, which means it is among the cheapest electricity in the country. Average monthly bills for a 1 or 2 person household run around $100 to $130. Heating is the variable. St Helens winters are mild, but a wet, windy July still benefits from a heat pump or wood fire, both of which are common in most houses here. Total monthly living for a renter, $850 to $1,100. For an owner in St Helens who paid somewhere around $380,000 to $480,000 for a 3-bedroom house and has that in the bank or super comfortably under $700. What nobody tells you about St Helens, and I feel like I should say this clearly, is the community. There is a depth of community in small Tasmanian coastal towns that is not accidental. It is the product of isolation, which has historically required people to look after each other, and of scale, which means everyone's contribution matters. If you are someone who thrives with neighbours who know your name, who brings a dish to the community hall dinner, and leaves knowing 5 people better than you knew them before, St Helens will feel like home quickly. For some people, more quickly than anywhere they've actually called home before. The 6th town is the one on this list that most challenges the assumption built into this video's title, because Port Victoria on South Australia's Yorke Peninsula is not a beach town in the way most people use that phrase. It is not a tourism town. It does not have Instagram aesthetics. It's beach, and the beach is genuinely lovely. If you are the kind of person who can sit in front of genuine loveliness without needing a cafe umbrella and a cold brew to help you process it, is a working beach. A fishing town, beach. A beach that does not perform beauty. It just is it. Port Victoria is about 160 kilometres west of Adelaide on the western coast of the Yorke Peninsula, facing Spencer Gulf. It has approximately 300 permanent residents. It has a general store, a caravan park, a boat ramp, and the kind of pub that smells like a pub is supposed to smell. A jetty stretching into the Gulf where people fish for tommies, whiting, and snapper with the relaxed dedication of people for whom this is not a hobby, but a way of keeping time. The Gulf waters here are calm. The Spencer Gulf is enclosed on both sides by the Yorke and Eyre peninsulas, which means the swell that pounds exposed southern beaches doesn't reach here. The water is warm enough to swim in from around October through April. In summer, the sunsets over the Gulf are deeply, stupidly beautiful, the kind of sunsets that briefly make you question every location choice you've ever made. Now I'll be direct with you about why Port Victoria challenges this video's premise. The under $1,000 target here is genuinely achievable, but it requires either owning your home or being comfortable in the caravan park's permanent accommodation options. Standalone rental properties in Port Victoria are rare because the town is small and the rental market is thin. What is available tends to move quickly and at prices that have risen in recent years. But here is the other side of that. Median house sale prices in Port Victoria sit between $180,000 and $260,000. This is not a typo. For the price of a caravan in certain Sydney suburbs, you can own a freestanding house on the Yorke Peninsula with a view of Spencer Gulf. Many people reading this, or watching this, have that in super or savings right now, and don't realise it unlocks this particular door. For an owner, monthly living costs in Port Victoria, utilities, groceries from the local store, supplemented by a monthly big shop in Kadina or Wallaroo, entertainment, phone, internet, come in consistently under $600 a month for a single person living comfortably. I have spoken to residents here who run below $500. For context, the Australian aged pension at full rate for a single person currently pays approximately $1,116 per fortnight, roughly $2,232 per month. If you own your home in Port Victoria and your entire non-housing expenditure is $550 to $600 a month, the pension alone gives you a surplus, a meaningful one. That is not a hypothetical. That is the actual mathematical reality of the life some people are already living here, in a quiet town on a gulf that most Australians have never seen, where the light comes in flat and golden across the water in the afternoons, and the biggest decision of the day is often whether to fish from the jetty or the beach. I need to say something here about a feeling that some people get when they watch videos like this one. It goes something like, "This sounds amazing, but it's not for people like me." I want to push back on that gently. The phrase "people like me" is doing a lot of work there, and most of what it's doing is protective. It's protecting you from a version of disappointment where you want this, try for it, and it doesn't work. So instead of risking that, you decide in advance that it was never really available to you. I've seen this in the retirement space more than anywhere else. People who have, objectively, the resources and the freedom to make a change, but who have spent so long imagining that freedom as a theoretical future thing that converting it into an actual present tense decision feels disorienting. Almost wrong. The towns in this video are full of people who felt exactly that, who sat on the idea for 2 years, then 3, then told themselves they'd do it when the time was right. And then, for one reason or another, a redundancy, a health scare, a conversation with someone who'd already done it, the time became right. And they went, and almost universally, the thing they say about the decision is not, "I'm glad I did it," it's, "I wish I'd done it sooner." I'm not telling you what to do, I don't know your situation, but I'm noting that pattern because it comes up often enough to be worth naming. If you are someone who takes the time to watch long-form content about retirement options, and you've made it this far into a 25-minute video, you are already thinking about this seriously. You're not just idly curious, you're planning something, even if you haven't said that out loud yet. That's the audience this channel exists for, the people who are somewhere between thinking about it and actually doing it. If that's you, stick around. Every video we make is designed to close that gap a little. The 7th and final town on this list is the one I've saved deliberately because it's the most surprising and because it illustrates something about the word hidden that I want you to carry with you after this video. The town is Hopetoun, Western Australia, the South Coast, Fitzgerald River National Park. Now, if you know anything about the Fitzgerald River National Park, you know it is one of the most botanically significant places on Earth. Not in a hyperbolic tourist brochure way, in a peer-reviewed scientific way. The park has been a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve since 1978. It contains more plant species than the entire British Isles, around 1,800 species, of which a substantial proportion are found nowhere else on the planet. It is a place of such biological strangeness that botanists come from every continent to study it. Hopetoun sits on its western boundary, on a protected bay called the Bay of Isles, with access to beaches so remote and undisturbed that they routinely appear on lists of Australia's most beautiful places without any explanation of how to reach them that a tourist might find useful. The town does not try to make itself easy to visit. It is 4 hours east of Albany on unsealed or barely sealed roads for significant stretches. There is no train, the bus service is minimal, and that is precisely why it has remained what it is. Hopetoun has a population of about 600 people. It has a supermarket, a small IGA, a medical centre, a school, a caravan park, a pub, a boat ramp with access to some of the finest recreational fishing on the entire south coast, an actual bakery, a community of people who are, again, here on purpose, who looked at a map, did the drive, and stayed. The rental market is extremely thin, consistent with the population. What is available moves fast. But, and here is the pattern again, median house prices in Hopetoun sit between $150,000 and $220,000. This is among the lowest beachside property pricing anywhere in Australia for a town with functioning infrastructure. The monthly cost of living for an owner, groceries, topped up monthly from Albany on the big shop run, around $280 to $340 per month. Utilities, including the power cost of an off-grid or partially off-grid lifestyle that many properties here support with solar, around $80 to $120 per month. Phone and internet via Starlink, around $110. Medical costs, negligible if you are healthy, and supplement with private health insurance at around $80 to $100 per month. Total, $650 to $750 per month, all in, for a single person who owns their home. What Hopetoun gives you in return for that is something I struggle to put into words without sounding like I'm exaggerating. The beaches here, 12 Mile Beach, Thistle Cove, the beaches along the Baxter Cliffs, are the kind of beaches that make experienced travellers go quiet. The kind where the only footprints in the sand are yours, and the only sounds are the wind and the waves, and you realise that you have not been this physically present in the world in years, maybe decades, and that it is not a small thing. The town's isolation is real. There is no hospital, the nearest one is in Esperance, an hour east. Medical evacuation if something serious happens is a genuine logistical consideration. People here factor that into their decision. They see specialists in Albany or Perth on periodic visits and carry that into their risk calculus. For healthy, active retirees in their 60s, the calculus often comes out in Hopetoun's favour. For someone with complex health needs who requires regular specialist access, it may not. I'll let you make that call. But I want you to know it exists. Before I go, I want to bring all 7 of these places back together, because there's a thread running through all of them that I haven't named directly yet. Brema Bay, Streaky Bay, Cardwell, the Fleurieu Peninsula, St. Helens, Port Victoria, Hopetoun. None of these places are luxurious, none of them are trying to be. They do not have the amenities of a capital city, the restaurant options of a tourist town, or the convenience infrastructure that decades of urban living have trained most of us to take for granted. What they have is something that is genuinely hard to find in urban Australia in 2025. A scale of community where individual people matter. A pace of life that is set by tide and season rather than by notification and schedule. A relationship with the natural world that is immediate and physical and daily. Not a weekend trip, not a holiday, but the simple fact of looking up from your front door and seeing the water. And a cost structure that, for people who own their homes or who live simply, removes financial anxiety from the picture entirely. That last one is not a small thing. Anyone who has spent years lying awake doing the same calculation about whether their money will last, whether the super balance will hold, whether the pension is enough, whether they can afford to stay where they are, knows that removing that anxiety has value that cannot be captured in a number. Several of the people I've spoken to in researching this video describe their first year in a small coastal town as the first year in decades that they stopped feeling afraid of the future. Not because anything magical happened, because their outgoings dropped low enough and their satisfaction with daily life increased enough that the numbers finally worked. And the numbers working meant they could stop running them in their head and start instead paying attention to the morning. If any of these 7 towns planted something in you today, if any of them sent you to Google Maps or made you start doing sums on the back of something, I'm glad. That was the point. And if you want more of this, more towns, more real numbers, more stories from the people already living these lives, we're here. Every week. The subscribe button is right there. I've never asked you to hit it because I think you should give me something. I've asked you to hit it because I genuinely believe this content has something worth coming back to, and a subscription is just a way of making sure you find your way back when the next one goes up. Look after yourself. Look at the map.